Hello, this is a response video to the Undead 13's video called, or something along the lines of, is horror punk or are horror punks the Juggalos or Juggalo culture of the punk rock scene? Um, yeah, this is a strange one because it's basically a friend of mine, Lucas, runs this, and with Jason and Gaz, and they got given this question. Sorry about the wording, I just really can't remember how it was worded at the time, but basically, is horror punk like kind of to punk rock what Juggalos are to hip hop and rap music, I suppose. In short, I would say not really. Um, I do agree. Fair enough. It's the same in the fact that they all wear crazy makeup, the same sort of makeup. They all dress similarly. They all have a dedicated fan base. They have one band that they draw upon. Misfits for horror punk and ICP for Juggalos. They have festivals to go to. They have concerts to go to. But saying that, I mean that's kind of where the similarity sort of ends. Not obviously Jason Monster Man, Mr. Monster. He said take away the music, and then that's what you've got. Yeah. I'm not considering the music at the minute because obviously they are totally separate genres, and it's a bit like saying like is like new metal the kind of juggalo of metal? Yeah, it is really because juggalo is like new metal. But anyway, that's not anything to do with it that. But anyway, back on track. Well, thing is, horror punk is, well, punk in general. It's got so many branches of punk that there isn't really one big kind of community. I don't think. If you take into account punk rock, kind of started off as garage rock in the late '60s, early '70s in America. This is kind of what my research has looked into over the years, especially because a lot of people think punk rock started in England with bands like the Sex Pistols. It really didn't. The word punk may have came up then, and the term punk rock may have been invented then, but the style of music started with bands like Iggy and the Stooges, MC5, um, and then later the Ramones, which carried on to the British wave, which was a different style of music. British punk rock and American punk rock were totally 100% different types of music altogether. It doesn't matter what you say, it is. And then so you've got, there you go, that's already two. So that's American punk rock and British punk rock. And then that moved into, like, when punk rock was over in the late 70s, it didn't last very long. Looking at kind of the history of the music, and spawned New Wave, which is another branch of punk rock. And that spawned things like goth, which is a branch of punk rock and its own thing, and it's all together now. And that's, things like post punk, and in America you have like grunge is classed as a type of punk rock, punk pop. These are all different things. These are all different movements, different fashions, different groups. So I don't think punk rock has one big community, whereas the Juggalos is one big community. It's like the Kiss Army. It's a bit like saying, the Peter Criss fans like the Juggalos of Kiss Army. No, because it's not the same thing. In general, horror punk is, yeah. The follow up to that video was, what is horror punk? Yes, I agree. It's basically punk rock that the subject matter is horror movies, or like kind of thriller movies in some cases, or like kind of stuff like, you can see behind us this poster of Heath Ledger as the Joker. Well, it's a painting, but whatever. So if they did a song about the Joker, that would be horror punk, I suppose. And also, like, I mean, that sound like, Jason kind of said that what Wednesday 13 did early on was for the kind of the shock rock sound, like a bit like kind of a punk rock version of Alice Cooper. Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And like these bands who are still around today, who like, just as for an example, Bloodsucking Zombies from Outer Space, yeah, they're a horror punk band for sure. I couldn't do a list like what Lucas did because it's with punk rock again, there's a lot of crossover. So you could call Buzzcocks, for example. This is just using an example outside of horror punk. They could be punk pop and they could be punk rock. Some people might even class them as post punk or new wave. But that's the same. So if you go into new wave, where does that end again, right? So does that go into like the early indie stuff, like the Smiths and the Cure, and are they goth? You know what I mean? So it's too grey, and it's too of a blurred line, if you will, to kind of say is it one thing or the other. Um, what I'm trying to say is horror punk is its own thing, and they aren't to be compared or kind of given this sort of like kind of label to an outside community because it's its own community. I'm trying to think of another example. I mean, like, to compare it to Juggalos. Juggalos, I would say, are more like Kiss Army, for example, who are passionate Kiss fans who do everything, follow everything Kiss do, and they would go on the Kiss cruise, for example, and they would go to see bands that are similar to Kiss. You could also compare that to, and this is a bit of a controversial one maybe, is to Directioners, which is the One Direction fan base, right? Hear me out, right? Because if you think, I'm not a fan of One Direction in any shape or form, by the way. Uh, but basically, if you think they follow everything One Direction do, and now that they've split up, they follow everything the members do. They're very intense, have everything that they've ever done in terms of merchandise and what have you, and follow them on social media. It's the modern day equivalent of Kiss Army, but in like a kind of a pop form, I think. Um, but that's, I would say, Kiss Army, Juggalos, Directioners. What's the Lady Gaga one called? I can't remember, but you know what I mean. There is like Maggots, right? That's a Slipknot fan thing, right? And they have Knotfest and things like that. But that crosses over into Juggalos, and it's too blurry to say is one thing or the other, right? So my answer to that question would be not really, and for the reasons of it's too. Sorry about the mess, by the way. I've just noticed my white shirt's just literally just hanging there, and I've got some of this whatever this is on the couch there. Sorry about that. Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, but yeah, I see the similarities. Like they're like one kind of music. They wear crazy clothes, have a different outlook on the world to everyone else, have a different lifestyle. And that includes like collecting, tattoos, all sorts. But at the same time, it's too punk rock is too blurry compared to what Juggalos, which is a very defined thing. And you were saying about like Juggalo bands. I mean, most bands that Juggalos listen to are obviously ICP plus bands that are on their record label, Psychopathic Records, which is like Twisted. There's Tech Nine on their label, but Tech Nine's bigger than all that. But Tech Nine, oh man, what's his name again? Big Hoodoo. That's the I'm thinking of. Big Hoodoo. And some more like they've got some crazy rappers on their label. Jesus Christ! If you've ever watched a trailer for Gathering of the Junglos, Jesus. But they also, if you notice, they always include some metal bands, new metal bands, a few punk rock bands, So again, is that something else that's a bit blurry? I mean, does Juggalos have to listen to one type of music? Do Juggalos have to listen to one type of band? No. But yeah, that's my 2 pence on that. Yeah. I've run out of things to say now. So I'll just leave it there. So hopefully you like my response. If you agree, leave a comment. If not, do a response or leave a comment again. Like it, share it, subscribe, whatever. Hey, do what you like. I don't fucking care. Thank you very much. See you later.